Winter storm Elliott hit 2 days before Christmas, bringing sub-zero temperatures in the midst of one of the coldest Decembers since 1980. In this special edition, we'll look at the challenges EKPC faced and how we overcame them, along with lessons learned. I'm Shay Phillips. Welcome to the Storm Elliott edition of Power Pulse. When temperatures plunged 2 days before Christmas, it set off a chain reaction of events that showed EKPC's energy production capabilities and also demonstrated how having a number of diverse fuel resources enhances reliability. Let's recap. On December 23, 2022, temperatures plummeted across the state, with media reporting a 30-degree drop in temperatures in less than 3 hours in Louisville. That was accompanied by minus 30-degree wind chills across the state. Temperatures hit the single digits, remaining there for 34 straight hours, including 19 hours at or below 0 degrees. Bluegrass Station hit a low of -6 with high winds and blowing snow. Most locations in the Commonwealth saw sustained sub-freezing temperatures for 108 consecutive hours. For most of the 23rd and 24th, the temperatures never got above single digits, putting stress on EKPC's generation assets. Not only was it very cold, but many people were in their homes, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, and preparing for holiday celebrations. Also, home heating systems were working hard to maintain comfortable temperatures. As a result, electricity usage was much higher than anticipated. While PJM had issued a cold weather advisory, the actual plunge in temperatures was much colder than forecast. That prompted a much higher usage rate in the PJM footprint.
So from December 23rd through Christmas morning, temperatures dropped very low all the way across the PJM footprint. Combined with the wind that we saw during that time, East Kentucky's load exceeded our expectations between 300 and 400 megawatts. PJM's load did the same thing. In fact, even during the off-peak periods, they were as much as 40,000 megawatts over anything they had experienced. However, there is enough generation in the PJM footprint to supply all of that load. But with the cold temperatures, it creates mechanical issues. So the generation units did have some mechanical issues, but the bigger issue was the gas supply pipelines. And they created issues then for the generation. There was not enough fuel supply or gas supply to get to the generators. And so it's a gas issue and not so much a generation issue.
The intense cold, coupled with record demand, created challenges for power providers across the country, for EKPC and its neighboring utilities. As the wave of extreme cold moved east over the Atlantic seaboard, PJM began to have difficulty keeping up with the demand on the 23rd. PJM's load continued climbing from the morning of December 23rd through the evening peak. Meanwhile, failed starts, derates, and plants forced offline because of gas pipeline failures caused PJM to experience 57,000 megawatts of forced generation outages at the height of the storm. These outages, coupled with higher than forecasted load, drove reserve margins below 10% in PJM. Among the tools PJM used to keep supply and demand in balance, they called on utilities to exercise interruptible contracts, cutting back on power to large commercial and industrial customers. PJM also asked utilities to request homes and businesses voluntarily conserve energy by turning off lights, lowering thermostats, and delaying use of large appliances.
Bluegrass and Smith stations are served by 3 interstate pipelines, and all 3 of those pipelines cut our gas service during Elliott. That caused EKPC problems, it caused LG and EKU and TVA problems. We didn't have to, or EKPC didn't have to have rolling blackouts like our neighbors did, but PJM got dangerously or uncomfortably close to having to call blackouts. So when the generation reserve margin within PJM gets below 10%, the prices elevate to cause the PJM members to reduce their load and help increase reserve margins.
EKPC set a new peak load record of 3,747 megawatts on December 23rd. That record exceeded the all-time record by 240 megawatts and represented a demand that exceeded EKPC's generating capacity. Although we were on the brink of rolling blackouts several times over the 3-day period, we were able to keep power flowing without interruptions.
Natural gas at Bluegrass was curtailed on Friday, which resulted in us trying to go to dual fuel. That is a brand new system which we commissioned in 2019, and the system froze up when we tried to start it. But it was through the perseverance of the Bluegrass staff that we were able to start those units on Saturday. At the end of the day, we used up all of the fuel in both of the tanks at Bluegrass. At Cooper Station, Cooper 1 was the unit that was online because Cooper 2 was in a maintenance outage, a planned maintenance outage. Cooper 1 had some issues with frozen coal, but that unit performed very well, supported the voltage in the southeast region, and were able to help keep the lights on down there. All of our units at Smith Station were switched to fuel on Monday because the gas was curtailed on that Sunday, and they operated through Tuesday very well. At Spurlock Station, we had an issue with Unit 4 on that Friday, but that unit came back late Friday, and we operated very well the rest of the event. All of the people in production did a great job throughout the whole event.
EKPC burned 2.2 million gallons of backup fuel at its gas plants due to gas pipeline interruptions. Bluegrass gas supply was curtailed on December 23rd. Once it began to burn backup fuel, it operated for 40 consecutive hours. Smith Station's gas supply was curtailed on Christmas Day, but it kept running on backup fuel, burning 1.2 million gallons of fuel oil.
One of the most important factors for us getting through this event, Storm Elliott, was the fact that we have a diverse set of resources: coal, natural gas, hydro, landfill gas, and renewable energy. And also the diversity added by being in PJM really saved us from having to shut the lights off at various times during this event. So we're very grateful for the diversification and the fact that the board of directors has allowed us to spend what we need to spend on maintenance as well to make sure that these plants are very reliable. And lastly, and I'll use the term heroic, our production staff and those who are supporting us and the production people in the field here at headquarters put in a lot of time, and in the plants, and especially at Bluegrass Station, in some extremely hard and tough conditions. So they performed extremely well, and we're very proud and thankful for them.
Mr. Mosier added these types of situations could become much more frequent in the future because of the hasty move away from the most reliable fuel sources like coal to fuel sources that are intermittent like renewables. As the energy industry has been forced by regulatory oversight to abandon reliability in favor of renewables, the likelihood of a weather event to overwhelm the grid will continue to grow.
We've seen cold weather before, and there was nothing really that unusual about this event except for the extreme wind. Now, having said that, the asset mix in the marketplace is changing. While East Kentucky has a very diverse portfolio, the marketplace, PJM and Midwest ISO and surrounding markets, are changing their grid mix extremely rapidly. So you combine rapidly changing grid mix, the loss of coal assets, the quick influx of renewable energy, and worst of all, the lack of new pipeline capacity in natural gas has created a crisis of reliability inside of PJM and the surrounding markets, and the state of Kentucky for that matter. So it's all about diversification and being in the right marketplace, and that's where East Kentucky is situated very well. So looking forward, we're still focusing on reliability long term. However, the marketplace is not focusing on reliability. It's focusing on the rapidity of change and the doing away with fossil resources. We're going to continue to focus prudently on adding a diverse set of new generation to our mix going forward, a combination of fossil, renewable, and probably storage. And this, in the long run, will help us weather the storm.
Primarily due to the gas curtailment, EKPC did have some performance issues that plagued the system in the extreme cold weather. PJM has imposed penalties for non-performance of generation assets that were called upon, but that did not run as requested.
EKPC delivered 1.35 million megawatt hours in December, which is 84% over budget. Investment in insurance products such as outage, and where PJM levies penalties for non-performance, was a very prudent decision. This single event alone will save EKPC nearly $20 million.
Even with the high sales numbers, EKPC will absorb nearly $36 million in fuel and power purchase costs to help manage what would have been an extremely high FAC for owner members and their end-use members.
Let me start by talking about the board and how proactive they've been. That's really been helpful and laid the foundation for how we got through this event. First is they authorized dual fuel at the Bluegrass station, and that turned out to be critical, as you've already heard. Second, they authorized a rate increase that really paved the way for us to get through this financially. And third, they've been really proactive about insurance, particularly in this case, outage insurance and insurance for the CP penalty, the capacity performance penalty at PJM. The first thing that happened over the Christmas weekend from a financial perspective is a real immediate concern about whether there was enough cash to meet our obligations. We were concerned that we would have a credit call or a margin call, a collateral call with PJM, and that would be expensive and difficult to manage. So the finance team very quickly and proactively got on that and borrowed $100 million against our credit facility, and then immediately after the holiday paid $45 million to PJM in an advance payment or prepayment. So the cash management was really critical. And following that, a planned event was the RUS payment that's normally due at the end of the quarter. The following weekend, year end, they had to pay $36 million to RUS for our normal payments. So that combination, plus the concern about how big the penalty from PJM might be and how immediately they might bill it, led us to borrow the $100 million and be sure we had enough cash on hand. So that was issue number one. Issue number two for us was thinking about owner members, all the impacts that they would have. You've already heard that we had 1.3 million megawatt hours of energy sold that month. That means that our members and their members were going to see very high bills. So that was issue number two, how to protect the members, how to minimize the impact and make this as palatable as it could be, given that, yes, we kept the lights on, but it was very expensive. Issue number three was our own margin. What would happen to East Kentucky after such an extreme month? Would it drive our margins to a level that was so low that our credit metrics and our covenants with our lenders would be threatened? So those are the big issues. And we worked hard on all three of those issues. The insurance became important because it allowed us to offset the PJM penalty. We were successfully able to manage all of this with a combination of insurance and good overall management and better understanding of the costs, a good balance between what we absorbed and what the owner members paid that allowed everybody really to come through this, I'd say, as best as possible given the circumstances.
That's it for this special edition. We leave you with images of EKPC's Safety Week. This year we celebrate our 4 Safety All-Stars who go above and beyond to promote our safety culture at EKPC. Congratulations to each of you. You are Safety All-Stars. Until next time, remember, safety is the right thing to do.